Go ahead and say that.
Hello and welcome to Susegad Stories from Goa. I'm your host, Clyde D'Souza. I'm a 3-time published author, media professional, and a Goan who loves everything about Goa. My latest book is called Susegad, The Goan Art of Contentment. In my podcast, I chat with some famous and some of my favorite Goans, and together we explore Goa beyond its beaches. From Feni to Fado, Casa to Cashews, come discover Goa like you've never done before. My guest today is acclaimed author Heta Pandit. Ms. Heta is the author of several books on historic houses. She has also worked with Dr. Jane Goodall on a chimpanzee research station in Tanzania. Ms. Heta has also managed a tea plantation in Kerala. Wow. She has a deep understanding about heritage homes, having worked in the field of heritage conservation for over 25 years. She's done so much in her lifetime. I am completely mind blown. And therefore, it's my privilege and honor, honestly, to have Ms. Heta on Susegad Stories podcast. Welcome to Susegad Stories, ma'am.
Thank you, Clyde. It's a pleasure being on your show.
Thank you. So, ma'am, before we get into the entire interview, I want to give our listeners a sense of where you're talking to us from Goa. So can you just explain where in Goa are you from and maybe your surroundings a bit, please?
Actually, I am in a village called Saligao, Saligao, which is in North Goa district in the taluka of Bardez.
Wow. Yeah, that's close to, if I'm not mistaken, the Museum of Goa is also there, right?
Yes, Museum of Goa is in the Pilain Industrial Estate, and in fact, Subodh Kerkar and his family are practically my next door neighbors in Saligao.
Oh,
so
nice.
We all live in Saligao, but the Museum of Goa is actually located in Pilain.
Yes. Wow, great. Okay, that's nice. And is it hot right now in Goa? I'm sure it is, right? It's sweltering.
Yes, it's sweltering. But there's so much greenery in my village that we are blessed, actually. I feel blessed. I don't feel the heat as much.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so your book, Houses of Goa, is considered a classic, a Bible of sorts on heritage homes. Maybe you can just tell us a little bit about how the book came about, how did you think of writing it, and what does the book have which makes it such a great classic?
Before I get to the book, I think, Clyde, I should tell you how I got into heritage conservation, preservation, and writing about heritage.
Yes, please.
I was working with Dr. Jane Goodall in Tanzania. And with my friends, I took a break and went to Zanzibar, which is an island across the water. And there we saw the Sultan's palace and the harem and all of that. And that's when I realized the importance of built heritage. Going back to Tanzania, the mainland, which was called Tanganyika once, there were absolutely no remnants of the original African houses.
Wow.
So that got me thinking, why are there no houses that belong to the African chiefs? And then I realized that they were built of wattle and daub. When they moved away, the houses fell to termite attack. So houses to me at that moment became evidence of history. Then when I came to Bombay, I started documenting houses, listing houses with intact help and with the help of the Indian Heritage Society, of which I was joint honorary secretary along with Mrs. Firoza Godrej. Then when I came to Munnar, I did a documentation of the houses, the bungalows there, the tea garden bungalows. That gave rise to a book called A Heritage Guide to Kerala. Then when I came to Goa, my real work, I think my life's mission began. And by chance, I happened to know Babush Kudino, who was working in the town and country planning department here. Through him, I met Gerard Dacunia. And Gerard was working on a book on houses of Goa, and he needed some help to write the book. Along with an architect who was working in Gerard's office, architect Annabelle Mascarenhas. Now she is Annabelle Mascarenhas E. Lopez. We put the book together. called it Houses of Goa. So that was the beginning. The book came out in 1998, and I'm
Okay.
surprised that people still remember it and keep it on their coffee tables. And
Amazing.
they still think of it as a classic and a Bible, and it's still a reference book in libraries, and it's still a reference book for a lot of house owners in Goa.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of people look at that as reference points, or if they are building their own home. So you also mentioned that you just simply walked up to people's houses and you just knocked on the doors, the houses that you found interesting. So tell us about that, and what are the kind of houses that we can, see in that book?
Well, I came on the 2nd of July 1995. At that time, I knew exactly two people in Goa. Babush Kudino, who worked for the Town and Country Planning Department, and I knew Teres and Sato Almeida. And through them, I started looking at meeting people and so on. Gerard had also built a network of house owners, so had Annabelle. But we were literally first timers. We were first researchers, we were first time designers, we were first time photographers, and this was Gerard's first venture into publication. So you can
Amazing.
imagine how raw we were. We were like babies in the wood. So I said,
Yeah.
let's just knock on people's doors and ask them if they'll want to be in the book.
Do you think that now there is more awareness of heritage homes within Goa itself,
Yeah.
within the homeowners?
Yes, when I first came here, even people who were in the part of the environmental movement, they would turn to me and said, heritage? What is heritage? What is this heritage you're talking about? So I had to explain that actually heritage movement is very much part of the environmental movement, because we are telling people to recycle or upcycle their old homes. We are talking about conserving materials. We are protecting the houses so that people don't go out into the countryside and plunder the countryside and bring back new materials. So it's very much part of the environmental scene. It took some time, but slowly people did started valuing and appreciating their own homes.
Wow. Ma'am, when I was growing up, my grandmother, she's from Kolwale, which is, like a village in North Goa, right? And
Yes.
my memory, very, very vague but fond memories of that home was, it had a nice, large hall, bedrooms, a saal, some four-poster beds. But one thing I noticed about the home was that it was always a long corridor. Whichever Goan homes I went to, it had like a long corridor. So do you think there's any reason for that? I mean, I'm just wondering about that typical kind of layout.
I think I know what you mean, because a lot of the houses were built to the contour of the land. In those days, you didn't excavate the land and flatten it like you do
Right.
now. So you built to the contour of the land, you built to the size of the plot, you built to the shape of the plot, and then you built also to show off to your neighbors. Don't forget that's very important in Goa. So
Right.
if you had that one-upmanship, you were okay. So all these factors combined, there were also very large, very grand houses where
Yeah.
artifacts were bought first.
Yeah.
They were
Oh.
purchased, imported first, and then rooms
Oh.
were added on to accommodate this furniture, these chandeliers, these
How interesting.
bric-a-brac, these chests, and sofas and flooring and all of that. So there are many, many reasons. I mean, Goan houses range from the small house with the little cool, what is called a very simple house with just a little bit of a sopo and a main living room and the kitchen areas at the back, to the very grand mansions. So as you mentioned, the corridor, the
Yeah.
entrada, and then there
Right.
is what is called a Raj Angan or Rozangan, which is
Right.
like a central courtyard, which was an inside-outside space
Right.
where
Yeah.
women would take the air or take the sun without being exposed themselves.
Ah, okay, interesting. So that was always at the back of the house, right?
At the back, or it can be a central courtyard also,
Right.
surrounded by a wraparound veranda. And in Hindu homes, that wraparound veranda was often called a vasri. It was often used as a dining area.
Ma'am, is the Balcao a Goan thing? Is it a Portuguese architectural element?
No, it's an Indian feature. You see it right along the western coast. You see it in Gujarat. In Gujarat, it's called an otla, Otla.
Wow.
And in
Okay.
the Otla in Gujarat, because it's such a hot climate, they often had a ichko or a swing bench.
Okay.
So you could take the breeze in the absence of electricity before electricity came when there were no fans. So the
Right.
otla or the balcony is really a Indian feature. You have them in some houses in South also. In South Karnataka, you have them in Tamil Nadu. It is
Okay.
not, according to me, a Portuguese feature.
And what would be then the Portuguese influence in a Goan home? I think the mother of pearl windows, could that be the one of the Portuguese influences?
Yeah, absolutely right. Mother of pearl shell windows, and also the columns. Sometimes you see a very elaborate column outside on the balcony. That is definitely a European influence. Only difference is in Europe you see classical columns like the Corinthian columns or the Ionic columns, Italianate design columns. But here we didn't have that reference point to copy a
Right.
Corinthian column or an Ionic column. So we did our own thing. We just modified it to suit us. It supported the balcony roof, which is,
Yeah.
if you see a Goan house, you'll think that the balcony is like an add-on. It doesn't quite fit into the main house.
Yeah.
But these posts or columns or pilasters, they are definitely a European influence.
Okay. That's interesting. And also some of these homes have roosters, right, on the top of the roof.
Yeah.
And they also have their own story. So where did that come about and why like a rooster? I mean, is there any reason for that?
Well, there are roosters, there are soldier boys,
Yeah.
there are lions.
Right.
Yeah.
So is it just a
So
fancy, just someone just came up with it, or is there some story to that as well?
sometimes there is a story to that. The rooster has got many theories. There is one school of thought where they think the rooster, because it's the national bird of Portugal, and people who were loyal to the Portuguese government, they had a rooster there. Or it was just a popular symbol.
Right. Okay.
It's called a fenial. A fenial. It's either
I
on the
see.
gatepost or on the top of the roof. The
Yeah.
other school of thought says that there is a story actually where an innocent man is accused of a crime and he's supposed to be hanged the following day. Now he goes and appeals to the jury who's at dinner, and there's a rooster on the table, roasted, cooked. And he says,
Okay.
by dawn, if this rooster crows, then I will be proved innocent. And as it so happened, the story goes that the rooster on the table, cooked and roasted, actually crows. And therefore,
Wow.
this man's innocent is proclaimed. So the rooster on the roof is also symbolic of dawn, of awakening, of enlightenment, of innocence.
That's so fascinating. I used to always wonder, and now I don't wonder anymore. Thank you. Yeah, and now I read your book. There's more to life than a house in Goa, and it's a lovely personal journey, right from inheriting houses in Panchgani to the one in Bandra, and then your own house in Goa. So, if you don't mind, can you just share a little bit about your own Goan house? How did it come about? Where is it? And what do you like most about it?
Well, the thing is that I had looked at 24 houses over 11 months,
Wow.
looking for a house. And one day I burst into tears, and my friend was sitting with me, and I said, I think Goa doesn't want me to have a house here, because we've seen every kind of house. And my friend Nandan Kuchadkar helped me look and look and look. Every time we used to go window shopping for houses, he'd be there. And this is not right, that is not right, and so on, went on and on and on for 11 months. Finally, this friend I was having breakfast with said to me, I know you don't believe in these things, but there is a bhaji. There is a bhaji in Kundai village. If you
Okay.
go to him, he'll be able to tell you whether you're going to get the house or not. So, totally disbelieving, total non-believer in these things. I go up there and I meet Kaka Bhatt, and he's no more now. He passed away 6 years ago. And I ask him, so he first looks at he asked me for my birth date. And then he says to me, okay, give me a minute. So then he goes around and he comes back and he says, you'll never get married. So I said, I think I know that, but I didn't come for that. I came to ask you if I would get a house here. So he says, oh, house. Acha. So then again he says, I've forgotten your birth date. So I gave it to him. I said 25th August 1954. So this Bajji with just a sacred thread round his chest and a dhoti, walked around the entire temple singing number 54, house with a bamboo door.
Really?
It was so funny. It was the funniest thing. I thought,
Crazy.
and the whole temple is empty. And I said, oh my God, now I better make my escape. And I've come to a madhouse. And he comes back and he says, you will get your house on your birthday. And on my birthday, believe it,
Wow.
my agent called me up and he said, Heta, drop everything you're doing. I think I found your house. And I came here and they didn't even have the keys. And I just had a quick peek through the window. I saw the flooring and I fell in love with the house. And I said, this is it. So my broker asked me, are you sure? I said, yes, 100% sure.
And I remember in your book, you said something about the house being slightly odd in terms of its shape, or it was touching someone's wall or something like that. I can't recollect now.
No,
but
it's right on the road.
Right.
The road cuts through the house.
Yeah, correct. Which is why a lot of people were saying you shouldn't. And then you were like, no, you like it. That's what I remember reading. Yeah.
So across the road is where I park my car, where I have my vegetable patch, and where I have my little staff room for my houseman. And I love it.
Amazing. So what is the one thing about your home that you absolutely love? As in which room, or is there something about it that,
I like my room, which was formerly the kitchen. And I do believe that a kitchen is the heart and soul of a house, any house, big or small. And the kitchen is now my bedroom. So I converted it. Converted it. The well is just by where I sleep, where my head is. And they used to draw water from the well and use it directly into the kitchen in those days. I'm very happy with the sound of water by my head when I sleep. Wow. And I had to put in bathrooms though, because this house had no toilets, no bathrooms.
Yes. Everyone had it in the back.
Everyone had it
outside the house.
Even a lot of Parsi houses, they had it outside. That's why in Parsi Gujarati, it's called Pachwaro. Means even to go to the toilet, you say, I'm going to the Pachwaro. Means at the back, the backyard.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So there was no word for bathroom as such. It was just back room. I'm going to the back room, right?
Backyard.
Yeah, I'm going to the backyard, right? So now, I mean, you got your house in Goa finally and all of that, which, I mean, a lot of people dream about and which all sounds great and superb. But it's obviously a lot of hard work and everything, right? In terms of maintenance and, like you said, upcycling it and all that. So what do you think were your pain and pleasure points about, having a home and creating a home out of, let's say, a house?
This house was not lived in for 10 years before I bought it. The previous owner had passed on 10 years ago. None of his nieces wanted to come down from America and Canada to look after it or to even put it on the market. They had asked a power of attorney holder based here to look for a client, and they had decided on a price, and they said, we can't be bothered. So then you can imagine the condition of the house. It was in very poor shape, but we put it together with Ketak Nashinolkar's help, conservation architect, and we did it in record time. Nobody would dare to do it in 3 months.
3 months, that's it?
3 months. We camped here with my Nepali cook, and we had 5 different kitchens going on at the same time. The carpenters, the roofers, the painters, the flooring people, furniture people, everybody together, all of us practically living in the house. And plumbing had to be put in, electrical connections, everything had to be put in. But I was fortunate that I had the same team who were, all professionally and socially related to one another. So
Okay.
they had been working together as a team. So there was so much understanding, so much adjustments they made. And
Right.
it was really amazing. And sometimes they still call up from the village in UP and say, Madam, kaise ho?
Wow. Yeah. That's sweet. And you also mentioned that, that you have a garden or a patch outside across the road. So you obviously also are into gardening, or, you like plants and all that. So what do you
Well,
have?
I'm trying to do something. I learned a
Okay.
little bit of permaculture from a friend who's an expert. I'm not very good at it yet, but at least it's somewhat brings me a few things to
Right.
the table every now and then, and I'm quite happy with my little
Right.
adventures in the garden.
And ma'am, why are they called? I mean, like, what makes a home a heritage home? As in, when does it get that tag? Is it a certain period of time? Is it
See,
architecture? What is
no,
it?
it's according to me, it's not period of time. We actually put a definition for the Bombay Heritage Regulations way back in 1995. And that definition means a building that has, this is for built heritage.
Okay.
So this is for properties and sites. Basically, it should be of value to the community. Now,
Okay.
what sort of value? It can have historical value, architectural value, archaeological value, social value, cultural value. It can
Okay.
be associated with a person or an event. Maybe the Constitution of India was written here. Maybe the Maharashtra Gomantak Party was formed here. All these things add to the history of a house. And
Okay.
also, it can be of heritage value if itself it is not very important, but it's part of a cluster of other heritage houses or historic houses.
Okay, like the Fontainers area in Panjim, for
Yes,
example.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Now, by itself, it may not be the Taj Mahal, but in your village, your town, every town has a Taj Mahal in it. For example, in Panjim, you say take the Adil Shah Palace. Now, you take the
Right.
Adil Shah Palace to Bombay, for example, it may be just like any other house, but here it's very important. It's got historic value,
Right.
architectural value, archaeological value, social
Oh,
history, important
wow.
for the community, and so on. The Asia's oldest medical college, the old GMC, for example, in
Yes, yes.
Panjim,
Right.
that's that by itself it may not be so fantastic looking,
Right. I
but
think you played a role in conservating the
yeah,
medical college, right?
yes, a small role, but it only takes some historic event or a little bit of effort on your part to point out to the government in power that this is the importance of this house, because they don't know everything and they're not supposed to know. You are the
Yes.
expert. You have
Correct.
to bring it to their notice. After that, if it doesn't work, it's another matter, but at least you do your best. That is
Yeah.
my message to everyone, actually.
Right. Yes. You just have to know, and you have to recognize and bring it to notice, I
Bring
guess.
it to notice. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So do you think that the government needs to, or do you think that who needs to, set these policies, or what is it that, what do international communities do to kind of preserve it? And is Goa doing enough? Is India doing enough? What do you think?
No, neither India nor Goa is doing enough.
Hmm.
In
Okay.
fact, we should have at central government level a his policy for heritage buildings and sites that includes
Okay.
natural also, like you have for wetlands now. But the wetlands has come because of international pressure. The same kind of pressure has not come for heritage buildings to India.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's why, you see such devastating and very aggressive attacks on monumental buildings all over India.
Right. So is there does UNESCO look into this? Does who looks into this, as in, or do
No,
we just, like, give up our hands and say, okay, it's the passage of time and we have to let it be?
no. See, first reason, as I was saying, this is part of the environmental movement. So why go
Right.
out into the countryside and plunder it for materials? Use what you have, recycle what you have, and don't alienate your city by building high rises. High rises replacing these monumental buildings, which are landmarks. You are alienating the citizens. Citizens
Right.
are then just going to lock themselves in, not come out. And that I see happening in Goa right now.
True. Yes, absolutely. That's right. Yeah, we can only hope that, more people get this kind of awareness and there's some change or some policies that are locked in. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but there seems to be right now a real battle going on between the charming Goa that we all knew and loved and this new kind of haphazard development that seems to be happening, right?
True.
Yeah. So now your latest book, I want to talk a little bit about that. It's called Grinding Stories Retold, right? Songs from Goa, in which I think it's about the ovios, which are songs sung by women
That's right.
folk, right?
Yes.
And they used to sing these songs to kind of elevate their mood or make work light, right? So just
That's right.
share a little bit about that book. What's in it? And what can we
There are
expect?
two books. One came out in 2018. It's called Grinding Stories, Songs from Goa. And
Yeah.
this new one, which came out in November last year, 21, that is called Grinding Stories Retold. Now, what I did was actually I came upon it quite by chance. Dr. Rajendra Kerkar and his wife Purnima and I went to a temple where they have this uniquely Goan art called Kavi, which is done on the walls with red soil. And we were looking at the art, and I was looking at this Garuda rescuing a king cobra. Normally, a Garuda, eagle, and a cobra are supposed to be enemies.
Yes,
But
yes.
here was a very benign Garuda looking at king cobra with great compassion. So I asked Rajendra Bhai, what was the story behind it? And he said, this is a narrative where the king cobra is drowning and the Garuda sees him drowning, picks him up, and he dries him out with his feathers and feeds him milk and honey. And so I said, but they're supposed to be enemies. So he said, yes, but in Goa, even if your enemy is drowning, you rescue your enemy.
Wow.
So this,
Okay.
I'm still getting goosebumps when I'm telling you this, but this struck a chord in my mind, in my heart. And I asked him if anybody had documented these stories, and he said, no, nobody. I don't think anybody's documented. These are ovios. These are songs sung at the grinding stone. And then I went deeper into it. I started meeting the storytellers, and I started documenting and learning from Bhai and his wife Purnima and one of their students, Subhada. And that's how I translated them and published the first book. And in 1684, there had been a ban on singing in Konkani. So the Catholic Goans were not allowed to sing ovios in Konkani. And that's why this whole genre had gone underground.
And why were they not allowed to sing? Was it because of the Portuguese or something?
Yeah.
Or did they look down upon? Yeah.
No, one of the conversion things that there was a ban on wearing flowers in your hair. There was a ban on speaking in Konkani. There was a ban on singing lullabies.
Yes.
There was a ban on singing wedding songs. There was a ban on singing mourning songs.
Right. I know that they used to even ask Catholics to put salt in the rice, which is something that I didn't know that and we used to always put salt in the rice. And then when I met Hindus, they would say, no, you don't put salt. And I'd be like, what? And then I studied it and found out that was one of the reasons. So
one of the
quite
things
fascinating.
that also eating pork every day, you were expected to eat pork just to prove your your
Catholicism,
your new status. So all these things, so ovios went underground, and I imagined for all this time that the Catholic ovios had disappeared. But I met Dr. Carlos Fernandez, who's a curator at the Central Library, and he said, no, there is a group of ovio singers, Catholic Gaudas, who still sing the ovios, and you should meet them. And then Anuja from the library came with me, and we went and documented the Catholic ovios from the Christian Gauda community. So Amel Bai and all of her troupe and all, they sang for us. I translated those. And then the second volume came out, Grinding Stories Retold.
Right, great. So, and how many songs are there in this in both of these books?
The first one had 26 songs, and the second volume has 49.
Okay, so has anyone also captured them singing it? As in recorded their.
For six of the songs, we have a QR code in the book. You can point your mobile and you can listen, not just listen to the song, but you're actually taken to the storyteller's house. You see her perform, you see her sing in her own environment, in her own kitchen with firewood and blackened pots at the back and all of that.
Lovely.
It's quite exciting.
Yeah, that really sounds amazing. I'm definitely buying the book, so I'll definitely watch it as well.
Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, you've obviously done so much. So you've also written books on walking in Goa, right? And you've conducted many tours, one of them being the Houses of Goa tour. Then you did something with soul traveling. And now you're doing the Walk Festival Goa, right?
I'm not alone on this. Walk Festival is quite an exciting coming together of several walking tour companies.
Right.
Many walking tours companies have come forward. They've joined us under our banner of Goa Heritage Action Group, which I founded along with my colleague Poonam Verma Mashkarinius and Raya Shankwalkar in 2001. And what we did was we have now launched this under our banner, GHAG banner, as well as in collaboration with GCCI, Goa Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and under the aegis of the CCP, Corporation of the City of Panjim. And we're having a series of 15 walks over 14 days that span from heritage walks in Kampal to secret food trails, to sketchathons, to art saunters, to tree walks, to medicinal plant walk, to a signage walk, and lots of fun. We have one in Marga also that Lynn Barreto Miranda is doing. So this is going to be like a very exciting thing. But then after this, we want them to carry on with their own walks.
Yeah, it needs to be sustainable, right? So it needs to continue,
Yeah. They've been doing walks on their own, but for the first time, they've all come together.
Right, it's under one umbrella. I saw it on Instagram as well. Yeah, that does sound really good. Yeah. So, ma'am, now you've told us so many things, and you are really a true blue storyteller, and a conversation with you can stretch for hours, honestly. So, yeah, you have such a great way of everything just comes to life when you recant it. Yeah. So. Now I'm obviously looking forward to the second edition, I would guess, of Houses of Goa. So is that currently what you're working on? Is there another one of your many projects that you're working on? What is currently occupying your mind?
Working on two book projects at the same time. One is Objects and Memories from Goa, all the objects that have gone out of use now because electricity or the pace of life and so on. So Purnima Kerkar has written a book in Marathi, which I'm translating and adding a little bit here and there too. And right now we are busy working on stories from Goan Houses. The release date is 13 November this year. And, And it's going to be released on my mother's birth centenary.
How lovely is that?
Thank you.
That is great. So it's not too long a wait then. We have to just wait this year. Okay. That's good. Yeah, that's great. So I also wanted to ask you one question, which is generally I always ask people for their Konkani phrase or term, because I think one of the other ways to kind of fall in love in Goa is knowing the language a bit. So I'm quite sure you know a fair bit of Konkani now. So what would you say is like your favorite phrase or term that you like to use, a Konkani one?
Let there be love. Moga suni.
That is amazing. The reason it's amazing is because that's my favorite phrase as well. And I always end every podcast with that. So, okay, great. Wow. That's amazing. So thank you, ma'am, Miss Heta, for coming on the Susegad Stories podcast, and likewise, Moga Suni.
Thank you. Moga Suni. Dev bare karo tuka.
Dev bare karo tuka. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Susegad Stories from Goa. Do subscribe if you're a new listener and join a community of people who love and live the Goan lifestyle. Again, I'm Clyde D'Souza, and for more Goan content, you can follow me on Instagram at Clyde D'Souza Author. This podcast is brought to you by Bound, a company that helps you grow through stories. Follow them at Bound India on all social platforms for updates on this podcast, or take a look at their other podcasts. Moga Suni, and see you soon.